relevant, reliable, and researched. This is Experts on Call, the show focused on delivering leading-edge news and information on today's most beneficial products and services. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back to Key Pacific's Talk About Strata. I'm Stirling Fox, joined in studio by Tony Gioventu, the Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia, also the Vancouver Province condo columnist. He who is responsible for picking the little tunes that we toss into these shows each and every month. Tony, why did you go with Country Roads by John Denver today?
Actually, that was Art's decision, not
Art
mine.
Factora.
I was going to say something from
our producer.
We should have had something from the Doors, because we're going to talk about doors and windows. So,
well, now that we're out there on those country roads, let's head back into town. Oh, but let's talk first of all about the types of strata, the condo arrangements that one finds in rural environments versus the kind of stuff that we're all quite familiar with, the big buildings in big cities. Are strata arrangements in rural areas more likely to be the bare land stratas that you've described to us, Tony, where people do a strata deal on acreage and then put their own buildings on those acreage?
well, you certainly find those where you have better access to larger plots of land. And we have some farm communities that are strata titled, where each strata lot is 80 acres, and it's part of a parcel, and they'll have a common roadway that serves the entire community, and that could be one strata community, and all they really have in common is their roadway and maybe their general insurance liability. They may not have anything else beyond that. They could be quite isolated.
So that's very similar, going back to the prairie days in the 30s and the Great Depressions, of the sort of the cooperatives that the farmers used to establish for themselves for mutual benefit. So if the only thing they're pitching in on is getting a road they can all use and be assured that's going to be plowed and fixed 12 months of the year, that's pretty much the same principle, isn't it?
In many ways, it really is a cooperative use. And when you look at it, there are so many benefits around strata living that deal with that. You get the quantities of scale. You're dealing with that great number of units negotiating with a single contractor. You get better pricing. You can coordinate that pricing better. So there really are a lot of benefits to doing that. The other model that we'll see quite a lot of around the province are bare lands that are attached to some sort of recreation facility. So we have bare lands that are integrated around golf courses, for example.
Oh, sure.
And the golf course may in fact be owned by the strata corporation. It might be strata lot number 1. And then all of the other units themselves on the bare land are strata lots. There could be townhouses in the development.
I remember, now this goes back many years ago when I was living out in White Rock, and they put in this Morgan Creek development, and very swishy place, I'll tell you, nice stuff. And with a home came a membership in the Morgan Creek Golf Club. Now, would that be a strata thing, or would that be just maybe a real estate deal between the developers of the residential component of the acreage and the golf club people?
Not all of them are stratas. Some of them are not strata titled, and they're each a separate measured piece of titled property. They would be different in the sense that they don't have a collective sense of ownership, but they may have agreements with the developer, with the golf course. They might have agreements of access, of right-of-ways, over use of property and the allocation of the property. But many of them are stratas. There are a number of them in the Okanagan, in the Kootenays, Vancouver Island, where the golf course may be part of the strata corporation, it may not. It might have been a measured, severed piece of property that belonged to the developer or to the ownership of the golf course.
I'm thinking specifically of the Qualicum area, the Howie Meeker zone there on the east coast of Vancouver Island, where we have a lot of listeners here on AM 650.
Absolutely. Qualicum, Parksville, Courtney, Comox.
Yeah.
You have all these strata developments, and you'll find when you look at those that it might be a bare land strata. It could also be a building type townhouse development, but it might be a bare land strata, and within that bare land itself, you could have 5 or 6 different strata corporations around different parts of the golf course. They might have one common facility that all the different strata corporations share, and that certainly is something that there'll be some sort of share use agreements around memberships and fees for those facilities to maintain and repair them. So there's all kinds of variations around the province. We have an equestrian riding ring, in the province that is strata titled.
Really?
Where the riding ring itself is common property, and the stalls and the storage areas, each one of them is a strata lot.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's a way of collective use and apportionment, and it's really a way of dividing up the cost to make whatever that access is that much more affordable for people.
Now, let's hitch up the buckboard and head back into the big city here, because now we want to talk about building maintenance. And this is where those costs to each of those owners really gets important. And we're talking about things like not only who keeps the snow shoveled in the winter and the hedges trimmed and the flowers in the summertime, but we're talking about leaky condos, we're talking about ongoing maintenance, and Tony, we're talking about money. And I, as a condo owner in building X, say I pay a condo fee in addition to my mortgage and taxes. I also pay a condo fee of, let's pull a number out of thin air, $400 a month. What am I getting for my $400 a month?
Well, one of the benefits of living in a condo is the collective of all of your owners. So let's say we're in a 50-unit townhouse development. You're going to have roadways and walkways, and you're going to have common service needs for all of those areas. Well, one of the benefits is it's going to be much cheaper, and this is an economic benefit to living in the strata, to have a single contractor do all of the snow removal for the entire complex.
Sure.
Right? What you have to do as a strata corporation is you have to look at your registered strata plan. You need a copy of it if you're going to determine, to start with, who is going to be responsible for different parts of the property.
Is this all required by law?
A registered strata plan is created and registered through land titles.
Okay.
That creates the titles of each of the strata lots,
Okay.
right? That also shows all of the boundaries, and with the registered strata plan is going to be a registry of unit entitlement, and that's going to be the formula that's used to calculate how much people pay in their condo fees.
And what they should expect to receive in exchange for that payment.
Well, what they expect to receive in exchange for that payment is part of the annual budget. That's what the owners approve at the annual budget, what they're doing for maintenance. So you're going to have a number of service agreements, landscaping, and you're going to have snow removal and gutter cleaning and roofing maintenance and general maintenance to the buildings. One of the challenges that we have in the province is that there is a very low standard of maintenance to most of the buildings. And part of that has to do with housing affordability. The costs are kept down to be as reasonable as possible, or as low as possible. That, unfortunately, we have a bit of a culture in the province to keep condo fees down, and as a result,
I suppose that's mitigated in some part by the fact that we live in a land of absolutely insane real estate prices. So the balance in our minds, we look for inexpensive condo fees.
Well, I don't know if that's the balance in our minds is in as much as it's the actual reality that we're faced with.
Mm-hmm.
People are putting so much capital into the purchase of their condo and to paying their mortgages that really the other side...
They don't have much left for condo fees.
Exactly. Yeah. The other side of the housing affordability issue is, do they actually have any money left in their cash flow for high condo fees to meet all of these expectations?
By the way, I just pulled a number out of thin air. I said $400 a month, and I look at these ads in the paper for condos, and it seems to be a reasonable number. Is that a typical and average condo fee per month? $400 for a typical Vancouver apartment?
You have no way of knowing without looking at the building, because every building has different services. You might have a building with a swimming pool. You might have a building, a high-rise that has a concierge and on-site staff, or you could be in a mid-rise wood frame building that has very few additional services, and so the fees are going to vary greatly. You might be in a building where hot water and heat is provided through a central boiler system of the Strata Corporation, which means those costs are part of your condo fees. Or you might be in a building where each strata lot has its own hot water tank and you have electric heat, and those fees would be taken out, but you'd be paying for them yourself.
Okay.
So it really depends on the building itself as to what your needs are. But one of the focuses that we're doing through all of our fall education programs is having a maintenance and renewals program. And how do you plan a budget? Well, you plan a budget by doing an inventory of what you have that you have to maintain each year, come up with the schedule of maintenance, figure out what the costs for those maintenance are, and you plug them into your budget each year, which is a real shortfall in most of the condo developments around the province, because what we're seeing is a substandard lack of maintenance to most of the building systems.
One thing, and we need to take a break here, but I want to end this segment on this caveat, this warning that you gave our listeners probably weeks ago, months ago now, Tony, in our very first program. You said that if it sounds too good to be true, as in really super ridiculously low condo fees, then you're not going to get much because you're not going to pay much.
You'll get what you pay for.
Right, exactly.
You get what you pay for. And you know, you said, what do I get out of my condo fees?
Yeah.
What you get out of your condo fees is what you're going to approve at your annual budget. And what you approve at your annual budget is the tools that you're going to give to your strata council to be able to do the maintenance and repairs of your building. So you need to think of that equation of what you're investing back into your buildings. We have just scads of building developments around the province that are now in that 30 to 40 year range of the age where they're coming up to the need to do major renewals.
Right.
This is just routine repairs. It's time to replace the siding and the windows, and the infrastructure of this building needs to be upgraded and renewed. Many of these developments don't have any reserve funds. They've not been planning for this, so now they're facing large levies to be able to meet some of these catch-ups. And of course, we're already dealing with a housing affordability issue, people on fixed incomes who don't necessarily have the revenue to meet these levies. And there are a lot of barriers now for the strata councils to go to the owners and say, we need to do this work. And of course, the longer you let it go, the more expensive it's going to get. It simply doesn't get cheaper the longer time protracts.
You're listening to Key Pacific's Talk About Strata, featuring Tony Gioventu, the Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners of British Columbia. I'm Sterling Fox. We'll be right back.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call. And there's more still ahead on AM 650.